She had walked those hallways since childhood, her small footsteps echoing softly behind her mother as she worked room to room. The mansion had always felt like a world too grand, too polished for someone like her, yet it was the only world she knew. The quiet corners, the towering chandeliers, the endless corridors filled with portraits of people she'd never meet. This place had shaped her without anyone realizing. And while she moved gently in the background of a billionaire's home, she had learned something powerful. When you grow up invisible, you notice everything. That day began as ordinarily as any other. Her mother had asked her to drop a stack of fresh towels outside the study. She was used to doing little tasks like that, the simple helps that made her feel useful. But as she approached the hallway, she felt a strange stillness, a break in the usual rhythm of the house. The door to the study was slightly open, unusual, because the billionaire always kept it firmly shut when he wasn't inside. She hesitated for a moment, wondering if she should knock, but before she could decide, a soft rustling sound came from inside. She peeked through the door just enough to see without being seen, and that was the moment everything changed. One of the employees, someone she had seen many times, someone her mother trusted, stood near the billionaire's desk with a folder halfway hidden under their coat. Their hands were shaking as they shoved it deeper inside, glancing around the room with the frantic eyes of someone who already knew what they were doing was wrong. The girl froze, breath tight inside her chest. She didn't understand the specifics, but she understood enough. That folder didn't belong to them. The employee turned abruptly, and she instinctively pulled back, pressing herself into the shadow of the hallway. Her heart hammered, not out of fear for herself, but fear of what this meant. She knew that this billionaire, strict, brilliant, demanding, kept documents that mattered, important ones, powerful ones. She didn't know why someone would risk everything to take something from him, but the truth settled heavily inside her. She had seen something she was never meant to see. She stood there long after the footsteps faded. A part of her wanted to pretend she had seen nothing. After all, who was she? Just the daughter of a housekeeper. The kind of girl people walked past without ever remembering her name. But another part of her, a stronger part, refused to let the moment slip away. Because the one thing her mother had taught her, the one lesson she repeated every night with the tenderness of someone raising a child with more hope than circumstance, was simple. Right is right, even if you stand alone. She walked to the study once the hall fell silent. The door creaked softly as she entered. The billionaire's desk looked strangely empty, as if something vital had been stripped away. Her fingertips brushed the polished wood, and she felt a tremor of responsibility ripple through her. She couldn't confront the employee. She couldn't accuse anyone. She didn't have proof beyond her eyes, and who would believe her anyway? But she did know something she could do. So she followed her instincts, which had always been gentle but brave. She moved quietly, following the path she had seen the employee disappear down. Her steps were soft, controlled. She didn't want to be seen, not because she feared trouble, but because she feared the truth wouldn't be able to survive once exposed too early. The employee's room door was ajar. No one was inside, and there, on the desk, tucked behind a coffee mug and a half-written resignation letter, she saw it, the folder. It sat innocently, almost mockingly, as though it were just another forgotten document. She approached it slowly, her heart pounding, not with fear of being caught, but with the enormity of what she was about to do. She reached out, her fingers trembling, and lifted it. It felt heavier than she expected. Not in weight, but in meaning. She looked around, ensuring nothing else was disturbed, then slipped out of the room as quietly as she had entered. Every step back through the hallway felt like walking on a tightrope made of secrets. She wasn't returning the folder because she wanted praise. She didn't even want anyone to know. She was doing it because she couldn't imagine living with the knowledge that she had let something wrong continue. Even if the world never acknowledged her, she needed to acknowledge herself. She reached the billionaire's study and stood before the door. Her hands clutched the folder, knuckles white. She knew he wasn't home yet. He was out at a meeting, the kind that stretched hours and decided futures. This was her chance. She slipped into the study and carefully placed the folder exactly where it had been before, aligned perfectly, positioned as though it had never been touched. She smoothed her palm over it gently, almost affectionately. Not because of what was inside, but because of what it symbolized. She turned to leave, but paused. For a moment, she allowed herself to breathe deeply, letting the relief wash through her. But something else joined that relief: pride. A soft, quiet pride, the kind that doesn't need applause, the kind that settles deep in the soul and stays. When the billionaire returned that evening, he didn't know anything had happened. He didn't know a crisis had been averted, that a betrayal had been undone, that a simple act of courage had protected something important to him. He didn't know that his most crucial document had been saved not by one of his high-paid advisors or loyal security team, but by the girl no one noticed. He would discover the truth later: the traces of tampering, the timing that didn't add up, the suspicious behavior of the employee. But he wouldn't discover her part in it. She didn't confess. She didn't step forward when the investigation began. She watched quietly, staying out of the way, letting the world continue exactly as it always had. She wasn't looking for recognition. She just wanted to do what was right. And sometimes the people who do the right thing without expectation shine the brightest, even if the world never sees them. She walked through the mansion that night with soft lights glowing along the corridors, and for the first time in her life, she felt like she belonged there, not because of wealth or power, but because she had proven something to herself. She had shown that integrity does not depend on status, that courage does not require privilege, and that sometimes the smallest figures carry the greatest strength. And though no one spoke her name and no applause followed her, she carried within her a quiet truth. Heroes aren't always the ones standing in the light. Sometimes they are the ones who move silently through the shadows, choosing goodness because it is simply who they are. That is where true courage lives, and that is where true character is born. A single act of unseen bravery can change everything.